I'm Justin Davis, and this is Joe Camp's RC.
Alright guys, here we are with the Furibee Geniuser, or whatever they want to call this thing. It's a pretty cool looking quad. It's super stretched, as I showed you guys before. I do have a Venom 650 battery here. This is 4S, and it's also, can't see the C rating on it, but I'm going to test this one out today because I think this will be a pretty good size. I also have some 4S 850s, which I think is probably going to be the better size because these motors are actually going to suck up any type of smaller, like 450 milliamp battery. It's probably just not going to work on this quad. So I'm going to go ahead and put it up and test out the 650 line of sight. Then we'll do some 4S ripping around with the 850s, doing some FPV. Here we go, guys. Oh yeah. One of those quads, you guys. A little bit of tuning should be good. Nice. I hear a little bit of wobble after some tuning that I've done on it, but it's way less than it was when I got it. Out of the box, it did need a little bit of adjustment on the P and Ds, but check that out. Let's come in close and do a little punch out. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Holy crap. Come back. Man, that's super powerful for a little 3-inch quad. Man, you could really rip through these trees over here. It'd be like Star Wars. I can't wait to FPV this one now that it's tuned nicely. Oops. Gets a little bit dark up there on these cloudy days. It's like a silhouette. Man, I like flying this thing line of sight. I don't want to stuff it in the ground and take out these gym fan props. Pretty nice. So let's not waste any more time. Let's go ahead and put this one on the ground, you guys, and let me show you just what this little quad's capable of.
Yeah, you probably catch me moving through the city like Diddy with a chick so pretty. Everybody wanna hit me on YouTube, Facebook, or Twitter. Bit of hard hitter with a smooth flow so witty. Damn, I'm gritty. Chicks ride or die. Seen niggas try, but they wouldn't say hello if their last name Kitty. Life wasn't always sweet, been a long time coming. Hard times in my life where the kids straight dumbing. Couple nights in jail, came out straight bumming. All I had was family guard, everybody else running. I guess I was. Yup. I really was. Damn. I guess I was. Funny how fame and ends could buy friends. I guess everybody loves a winner. What you bringing to the table ain't no free dinner. Better take a hard look at yourself in the mirror. Because I know I did. Talking to my lawyer about a 30-year bid. But you think I'd break? Could've slept great, so I stayed up late. Looking through the Bible, trying to carry this weight. Trying to figure out a way to get my life straight. Niggas on the block chilling, homie, I'm straight. Don't you know a young black man just police bait? I guess they just. They must have been. They had to be. A lot of people told me we were tighter than a rope, but they all jump ship like rats on a boat. Try to act like they can't really have me confused. But all they really want to hear is about a nigga bad news. I chill with these fools. Thought we was cool. Turns out they were thicker than a playmate's bruise. Back to the blues. Short on food. Mama getting sick. Dad is too. He's getting grown. Need new shoes. Looking at me like what we gon' do. So what was I supposed to say? We gon' make it through like yesterday. And any problems that come our way, we gon' knock them right out like Cassius Clay. Because we no longer. Nope. We no longer. If life's a bitch, what that make death? Cold ass nigga with no heart left. Keep she need new dress. The game of life foul, I'ma need new ref. Back to the lab with the thoughts that I had. I'ma send to the pen, to the words on the pad. From the words on the pad, I'ma send to the booth. It's true to the youth. You could do anything you put your mind to. The hate, they gon' hate, but they can't see you. Keep it game tight. You be the light, and they gon' be.
Wow, that was pretty cool, right? 2018 seems to be the year of the micro for the 3-inch category because the 2-inch category seemed to just blow up in 2017, and the beginning of 2018 is all about the 3-inch. We're rocking some really cool bigger motors on these frames, and we're still running 3 to 4S on these. Betaflight, OSD, BL ESCs, micro cams, pagodas, all the good stuff is being thrown at these quads. And this one's just a little bit of a stretch X, which is pretty cool for me. It is a unibody frame and it has huge motors on here. These are 1506 3400 kVs. They're pretty snappy and the motors are really tight in here, so they feel like really good quality. But let me put this one on the bench for you guys and go ahead and show you this one and break it down a little closer. This is the Furibee Geniuser. Let's check it out. Okay guys, here we go on the bench with the Furibee Geniuser. This is a 160 millimeter frame and it is 3mm bottom plate. It's a unibody, so it doesn't have replaceable arms on here. It's all one solid piece. It has an XT30 in the back already for your 3 to 4S batteries. It has Furibee branded 1506 3400 kV motors, and these things are super punchy. Listen to the magnets. I don't know if you can hear this. I'm just gonna bring it close to the microphone. Listen to this. Super notchy magnets, really nice motors. I knew these would have tons of power when I first put my battery on there, and it came off the ground. It was super punchy doing the line of sight flight test. But what I thought looked really cool, and this quad surprised me because on the website, on GearBest's website, I thought it was a lot smaller than it actually is. 160 millimeter from front to back is actually a lot of real estate, so you have plenty of arm here. This is a really big stretch on this quad. Now it's also rocking that Furibee RunCam style clone camera on the front of here. It's just purple instead of orange. And the bottom of the camera, and I've complained about this before, is usually sticking out on some recent frames, not from Furibee, but from a few others. The bottom of this camera is all protected. These chips need to be tucked back inside whatever frame you're running this camera on, or a run cam. And it's also protected from the sides right here, which is really important. The only thing that does stick out just a little bit is these cables right here, but chances are you're not going to break those off. I've never broken them myself. And also guys, the ESCs on here are 4-in-1 ESC. They're 28 amp here, and they're nicely soldered up. Whoever soldered these up, this factory is looking like they're starting to pay attention to the details, because they did run the wires underneath and solder from underneath instead of coming out from around the outside. One of my pet peeves of builds here in 2017 and 2018 is when companies come with their motor wires on the outside, because that puts our motor wires kind of in risk of being ripped off when we do crash. So that's a nice detail that they did that. And mine also came with the FR Sky receiver. I have a D8 receiver on top with a little tiny antenna coming out the top. You can see that right here. But this is not a super full range receiver on here, so you're not gonna get like as far out as like an XM Plus or something like that. And you also have a 5/8 pagoda on here as well, which I need to tighten mine up. It's a little bit loose. From the factory it came a little bit loose. And always guys, go over your quad with a wrench and make sure all of your screws are tight on the bottom of your motors, especially because this is where sometimes from the factory, look at that, I'm missing one right there. It flew out during flight. And check both sides. Be sure to check both sides. And while we're looking at the bottom, they do have a piece of sort of sticky tape that comes along with it, and I don't really like these that much because my batteries always fly off of these. They're nice and grippy when you put the Velcro around it, but once you fly and you hit the ground, the battery seems to really just eject off those. It has nothing holding it to the quad. And the XT30s just don't have the same type of hold as an XT60 does. So I like to use Velcro on mine. It just holds the battery there during my little tumbles in the grass. Now that camera is pretty decent. It is 800 TVL and it's pretty clear. You can see from that video in the very beginning of the review that the camera does look decent. Now what I also liked about this one is the fact that it did come with a beeper, because something this size, you're gonna need a beeper on it when you crash out in the field, especially any type of large field. It's almost impossible to find these little micros. It also has 2 LEDs built in the very back, and it looks like they shaved off the bottom of this. You can kind of see how it looks like it's shorter on the bottom of the buzzer than normal. It's usually a little longer top to bottom and more square, but this one looks rectangular for some reason. It looks like they shaved off the bottom. But if you look inside this frame, it looks actually pretty pretty clean in here. There's not a lot of wires hanging around. There's wires going back to the VTX right here and where the LEDs and the buzzer connect, and just to the camera up front. So there's not a lot of wires hanging out. It's nice the way they did this. They also put a braiding over top of the motor wires, and that's pretty sweet. It makes everything just a little tidier. So for a bind and fly quad, this is not bad. Now the video on this quad was pretty decent, mainly because it does have an onboard LC filter, so that's making it a little bit nicer. It does not have any type of capacitor where it does connect up. You could add a capacitor on here and maybe get a little cleaner video, but it wasn't bad. And I did actually shear off and break my pagoda, so that's one thing to think about. If you want to take this off and maybe have it mounted so it's coming off the back of the frame and then bend it up, that way when you crash and this gets whacked, it's not going to break it right at the base of the stem like what happened to me. You actually have plenty of room to come out the back right here and just zip tie it to the end of this with a little bit of VHB along the top side of the antenna. That would probably be the better optimal setup, as long as it doesn't fly down into your props. And the onboard VTX is at the very top of this stack, and it is a 25100 or 200 milliwatt switchable, which is super nice. Now for my Betaflight also, I amped up the idle speed, the motor idle speed on the configuration page to 8. So you're not going to get any flips of death with that a little higher idle on the motor speed. I was a little bit worried about that, but I didn't have that problem at all. Mine didn't drop out of the air, which was super great. Now I've got a Babyhawk R here to show you guys just the difference in the size of these motors. This is that 1506 next to the popular micro size 1106. Check out the difference between the Emax 1106 motors. These are super punchy on 3 and 4S, but these 1506s are just gigantic motors compared to those. But for now, you're just going to run 2-inch to 2.5-inch props. But this is a full size 3-inch quad, and it's not actually all that heavy for how big it is. Okay, so let's just go ahead and get a dry weight on the Furibee Geniuser, and let's put it on the scale there. Minus one little prop broken back there. I'm at 157 grams, and with a 4S 850, this is the battery I'm going to recommend, you're up to 257. If you wanted to get it under 250 grams, maybe just use something like a high C rated 650 or 700. And I've got some other popular ones here I'm going to weigh. I'm just going to go ahead and weigh the Furibee X140 there with the run cam micro split on there, and that's 140. Let's see, that's 146 grams, and then with the battery, you're looking at 245 right there. So that one's under the 250 gram limit. And I'll just go ahead and give you a dry weight on one of my favorites. This is a 2.5-inch frame running a 3 to 4S battery, and this is my Leader 120. I've got it at 71 grams. And then the popular Babyhawk R, we were at 89 grams on that. And with the battery, I think it was up to like 110 grams, not too bad. But you're also running 2-inch props on this one, so it is quite a bit smaller than some of the other guys sitting here on the bench. So I'm gonna go ahead and wrap up this review and give you my final opinion on the Furibee Geniuser 160. I think this is actually a pretty decent quad. I like the style of it. It looks super cool. The carbon fiber looks really nice. 3mm bottom plate and 2mm top plate. That's good. 4 bolts on the very top to get to the stack. It would be super easy to work on for a new guy. If you're looking for something as your graduation from a super small 2-inch brushless micro before you step up to something like a 200 or 5-inch, this would probably be a pretty decent choice, mainly because it flies awesome and it has tons of power. So you're not going to be disappointed with the power system on here. You're not going to be wanting more punch out of these motors. So bang for your buck for this quad, I think around, if you can get the discount on the coupon with that, the RC18 off, if it's under $150, I think it's a pretty good deal for this size quad. You know, 160 millimeters is approaching to be a pretty large scale 3-inch. So with the Stretch X on here, I mean, it is a wicked stretch on here, but I think it flies really, really well. And you need kind of a bigger field for this one because it has so much power. You just, you can't quite rip in small places like you can with a Babyhawk R. So if you have a little more field available to you, this thing is absolutely a blast in a larger space. It's really a lot of fun to fly. So I had fun with this one. I can stand behind this one and give this one a thumbs up. I'm going to give this one 4.5 stars out of 5. So this one is a good bet for the money. So thanks for checking out the Geniuser by Furibee. This one is a winner, not a loser. This one has been a good experience for me, so I didn't get mad at it. It's an awesome quad. Thanks again for watching, guys. I'm Justin Davis. I'll see you on the next one.